Welcome to the Krista Escamilla Show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Krista Escamilla Show. I am so glad you're spending some time with us today to do three of my favorite things: listen, learn, and grow. I'm also super excited for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's Masters Week. And I'm so excited for that. Cannot wait for the tournament to start. Second of all, our guest today is a golfer. And you know me, I love talking golf and all the things. And third of all, we are so grateful to have not only a golfer, but a fellow entrepreneur. So we're going to get some business tips here too. Can't wait to hear about his business. But before we introduce this week's guest, I want to thank our sponsors. As you know, without our sponsors, there is no show. So huge shout out to Rig ID Workwear, Midland Omni Hotel, to the Laughlin Hotel, Kevin Foreman of Foreman Financial, also to Midland Cap Company, and finally joincapclub.com. I thank you for supporting these local businesses however you can, and wherever you are, support local. That's where it's at. You support your people, they support you. It's a great thing. It's a good thing. Okay, joining us today now, that exciting guest I told you about. We are so grateful to have with us today. First of all, let's start with, I always think, the best title, dad and husband, but he is also an entrepreneur. He is a former collegiate golfer and professional golfer. So please give a round of applause. Do a golfer's clap if you like. John Peterson is with us today. John, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to kick it around with y'all.
It's going to be fun because I want to talk all the things. Our show is all about really just like listening, learning, growing, and having fun. I like to make people smile. And I know you love to do that too. You're a funny guy on Instagram. Go follow him if you haven't. But first of all, just tell me a little bit about your journey to golf, since I mentioned golf. How did you get involved? And tell me your story.
I mean, how much time do we have? I mean, this could be a 3-hour episode if I start.
I'm good. I'm not going anywhere.
But I mean, I started at a young age. My dad was really not into golf. I had no grandparents that played golf a lot. We actually moved from Fort Worth after I was born down to Houston, and we lived on a golf course. It was a little muni track, but golfers would start hitting golf balls into my yard, and I was 6 or 7 years old at the time. And we accumulated so many golf balls and broken windows over the years that I just started collecting them and selling them back to the golfers over the fence. So I'd collect, I remember yelling it, to this day, it was golf balls 3 for $1 is what I would yell. And I'd package them up in a little Ziploc bag and sell them back to them if they hit them in my yard. And then one day it all stopped because, at 6 or 7 years old, you don't really understand the value of $1 very well. But if you hear $20, you think, oh my God, that's the most money I've ever seen or heard of in my life. So I had a couple hundred balls at this point, and I was selling, 3 for $1. And some guy came up and offered me $20 for all of them. And I was like, oh my God, $20 for all of them? I said, sure, take them all.
I'm rich.
So I didn't realize that I gave him $20 then that I could have had, $200, $300. Now I was out of inventory, and my parents were like, why don't you try to play? So they got me a little, starter set of clubs, and I started whacking around in the backyard. And I got pretty good through middle school. I'd say 13, 14. I developed a lot, and then I went to Pascal High School here in Fort Worth, Texas, where I had a coach that was a football player by talent that happened to coach golf. And he developed a mental toughness and a rigid mindset within all of us that allowed me to play at LSU later. But my development really happened in high school. I credit Trampus Wilson a lot for my development then. We were running 2 miles 3 times a week for time. And my freshman year I came in, my first time was like 18:50, I was a 15-year-old, whatever. And then when I graduated my senior year, I had to break 12:15, or I had to bear crawl the football field and back. So, you're talking 6 minutes over 4 years for 2 miles. That is a massive transition.
That is.
But I bear crawled that football field so many times that by the time I graduated, I hardly had to bear crawl anymore. And what that did, it's not really a strength thing or a conditioning thing at that point. It's a mental toughness thing, right? And you're just trying to ingrain in a young man, how to develop as a person and an athlete and a teammate at that point. So then when I got to LSU, nothing shocked me. Nothing surprised me. about workouts. Nothing surprised me about being at a big school and working out, because we had done it for 4 years. And we
Right.
had guys on the team that could not physically do it. And what happened was they ended up transferring. But
Yeah.
the guys that were developed younger ended up, two of us ended up playing on the PGA Tour out of the 5 guys that started. So, and then when I got to the PGA Tour, I was good for a few years, and then I had injuries, and then I got married, then I had 2 kids, then I had 4 kids, and at that point it was over for me. So I was lucky to be out there for as long as I was. I'll always say, like, I was the least talented person to ever play the PGA Tour. So I had to work a lot harder than most guys just to stay out there. But it was fun. I got to see a lot of the world. I got to go to some really cool places, meet a bunch of cool people. I still have lifelong friends. A lot of them are still out there. So I'm grateful for my time out there, but it was certainly a whole lot of work. And I don't take it for granted, but it's transitioned into my business life as well.
Well, what a cool journey, really it is. And like, you were an entrepreneur when you were a kid. You were selling golf balls. I mean, this was what you were meant to be. You did that, but what a fun journey. What is your We're going to talk about entrepreneurship in just a minute, and your new business, because I know it is thriving and doing great in Fort Worth, Texas. So I can't wait to hear about it. But tell us a little bit about your most memorable time on the tour, because there's got to be some moments there where you're like, you know what, those were some times that I will never forget.
Well, professional golf is just one of those strange deals. I mean, you're an entrepreneur as a professional golfer. You're betting on yourself. You're gambling on yourself every week. You're gambling on your talent. You're gambling on your hard work. Have you put enough work in? Are you good enough? All these things, right? So you're
Right,
gambling on
right.
yourself constantly. You're the ultimate entrepreneur.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
I believe I was down to, I think I had $300 or $400 left in my bank account in, this would have been May of 2012. And I was living in an apartment by myself in Baton Rouge that was $900 a month, and rent was due the next week. So this was right before the US Open in 2012. So I took out a credit card to pay for rent and to pay for my flight and hotel to the US Open in 2012. And at this point, I'm in debt, right? I've already paid my
Yeah,
rent. I'm in the negative. And if I miss the cut at this US Open, my golf career is probably over.
right.
And it would have been a huge letdown, because I had a pretty good college career. And this was before all the NIL and before everybody was getting these massive contracts to play year one professional golf. Like, I think I signed for $55,000 with Titleist as a first team All-American, which,
Wow.
nowadays that's $1 million contract.
Yeah.
So the 50 grand wore out in about 6 months. I'd missed a bunch of cuts. I'd traveled everywhere, and I was broke. So I get this flight, and I'd already qualified for the US Open. I get out to San Francisco, and I'm in the negative. And for whatever reason, that week, I blacked out the entire week, made a hole in one on the 13th hole at Olympic Club, and ended up finishing fourth in that US Open, lost by 2 to Webb
Wow.
Simpson. So as far as life-changing weeks go, that was it, right? I mean, I went from nothing to, I think my check was $250,000 after taxes, and I was off to the races professionally after that. But if that week doesn't happen, I probably start a garage business 13, 14 years ago, or,
Yeah.
or whatever I do, right? Who knows?
Right.
Selling insurance. I might be working at McDonald's. I don't know. But
Right. Right.
as far as life-changing weeks go, that was it. I went from, having nothing and really on my last dollar. But I knew in the back of my mind that all the work that I had put in and all the long hours and the sweat and everything I had done, I was hoping it would pay off, but I just didn't know, because in golf, if you can't afford to play, you're going to make no money. You can't get out there. Um, it's a very expensive hobby, and it's certainly a very expensive profession at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congrats on that hole in one. I know you can watch it on your Instagram. It's pretty fun to watch. And I can't even imagine the feelings. I've never been close, but been lucky enough to see a couple being there. But I can't imagine that feeling. The other moment that I can imagine is maybe meeting some of your mentors. I mean, or maybe some of the people you looked up to. Who was the one that, I don't know, maybe maybe you got starstruck, because you don't seem like the guy that would get starstruck. You're a pretty confident guy, and and I feel like you were you, right? But there's those people in our life that we still go. I mean, like I saw Troy Aikman one time and I was like, I didn't say anything because I was a huge Dallas Cowboy fan, right? So like, what was your starstruck moment, out there?
You don't get to the highest level in the world by yourself. You don't even get to high school golf by yourself. You don't get to start on a top 5 team at your high school team by yourself. Even though it's an individual sport, you have a team. Everybody has a team of people that help them, and people that, donate time, resources, whatever it is to get you along. And, obviously your parents are number one, but when you get on your own and you get to college and you get professional, you've got swing coaches, you've got trainers, you've got all these folks that help you along. And when you ask like if I've ever been starstruck, yeah, I mean, the first time I saw Tiger, I was extremely starstruck. I didn't know what to do because I've seen him on TV my whole life, and then all of a sudden I'm trying to beat this guy and he's playing in the group in front of me. Like I have to watch him the entire day, and all of these tens of thousands of people are moving around my group, not caring about me at all because they don't even know who I am. But
we're watching Tiger too.
So the problem with playing around Tiger and not with him is that you have people moving constantly trying to see him and get in position to watch him. So if you're one group behind him or one group ahead of him, even 2 or 3 groups, you just can't get people to stop, and they're in your through line and you can see them, and you just try to get them to stop and you can't. So you just give up eventually and try to focus. But yeah, the first time I saw Tiger Woods, I was shocked. I was shocked. I mean, he's huge.
Is he really? Oh, I mean, like I know he's a big deal, but I was like, in person too. He looks different, right?
You're
just like in
awe of his
presence.
He is. And that was the first time I had been kind of intimidated by a human being. Other than like the offensive linemen at the lunch table at LSU, those guys are extremely intimidating. But as far as someone that I'm trying to beat, like you can just look at that guy and be like, all right, well, how am I going to beat him? I know he can bench press my house, and he's out here hitting at 350 yards, and how am I going to beat this guy? So, but that was 2012. Yeah, that was 2012. So Tiger was really in his prime still. And he was really, the guy, the man. And now, if I saw him again, it would be a lot more warm. He is a lot more welcoming to people now. He's able to lend a hand to younger guys, which he had never done when I was out there. You were just in the way, like, oh, John Peterson, he's just in the way, right? And now you've seen a softer side of Tiger Woods. I think a lot of his kids have to do with that, where he realizes that he's not going to play forever, and he's probably close to being done. And his career is almost wrapped up, and he's taken advantage of helping younger generations. So, yeah, the first time I saw Tiger, I was starstruck. There's been a few others. I met Bill Clinton on the range at Humana and at the Palm Springs tournament. And I got to talk to him for probably 15 minutes. I was almost late to my tee time because I got distracted with talking to the president. And it doesn't matter what your political views are. Like anytime you meet a president of the United States, you're going to give him the time of day for as long as he wants, not about what you want. Like I was willing to miss my tee time just to hang out with Wild Bill for another 10 minutes. But then
how's his golf swing?
He wasn't playing. He was hosting it. He was hosting the event. So the coolest thing was I sat there and, we had a conversation for a while. The PGA Tour commissioner was sitting there with us. And about a month later, after the tournament was over, he sent me a note from the desk of William Jefferson Clinton that he wrote and signed with a picture of us talking. So cool. I have that in my office, and it's very cool. I was able to meet him, and I was able to meet George Bush one time in a 19th hole, just drinking beer. And he was a lot less intimidating because he was all sweaty and he'd just come off the golf course. And he is the most normal president that you could ever imagine. Sitting there drinking Heineken, talking to us like we're one of the guys.
He's Texas boy through and through, right? I mean, you just felt like you were meeting one of the guys in the clubhouse. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, his hair was all over the place. He was all sweaty. He hadn't putted a 5-footer in 20 years. That kind of guy.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned, the younger generation and talking to them and passing on, you said Tiger has really shifted and I love that. I think that's, that also comes with, growing up and having kids, right? I mean, that changes your life forever. I want to talk to the junior golfers that may be watching right now because, junior golf is, where you got your start, juniors, and then into collegiate. And a lot of those guys aspire to be it, but it's competitive, it's tough out there. And NCAA rules just changed. There's, smaller rosters now. What advice would you give to those guys out there that are, trying to live the life that you didn't live, that dream that you had?
Yeah, it's a lot different than when I was growing up. But the one thing that I always tried to do was I tried to surround myself with the best players possible. That I was always practicing with, that I was always competing against. And my parents had me in a private school in middle school. And we knew that private school wasn't going to have the competition that I needed to be able to play in college. So we transferred me from a private school here in Fort Worth to Pascal, which is, it's the biggest high school in Fort Worth, public school. But you get UIL 5A competition. And at that point, when you're competing against the best players in the entire state that are going to the biggest schools, you're going to compete against guys that are going to Division I schools, that are getting looks from all of the big colleges around. And then when you're at home and you're practicing, make sure, these kids are always trying to, it doesn't matter if you're playing. I used to play it in 7th grade. I was trying to play with the high schoolers all the time. They'd hit it 50 yards by me and I'm hitting 7-wood, from 200 yards, they're hitting wedges and I'm trying to beat them. Right.
Yeah.
You just always have to surround yourself with better people. And that's true in business. That's true in life. Like you are a combination of the 5 people closest to you. That's just how it's going to be. You hang around with drug dealers and you're not a drug dealer. Guess what? In 2 years, you'll probably be a drug dealer. But if you hang out with people that are trying to push themselves and get better, whatever their craft is, you will eventually, through osmosis almost, become better at that. And I've always tried to do that with golf, with life, with business, with relationships, everything I do. I have tried to use that 5-person closest to me method and excel in whatever it is. Because I always, you're always learning. People are always learning. You should be a sponge your whole life. Right. And I try to think of myself as the dumbest person in the room everywhere I go. Just trying to absorb whatever I can. I didn't know a thing about garage doors 2 years ago, but here we are. We've got a garage door company. It's just, I think for the junior golfers and the junior players listening to this that aspire to be college players, maybe they want to turn pro one day. You always have to try to level up your competition. Just play the best people you possibly can within your budget, within your means, whatever your means are. If it means going to play the club champion at your local club constantly and you're 3 handicap, they're a scratch, whatever it is, you can always find people that are better than you at your craft to learn from.
That's great advice. Great advice because you really, if you want to be the best, you got to play with the best. That's what it comes down to. Well, I think that's awesome. Congratulations on such a great career. We're going to talk more golf in a minute, but you mentioned entrepreneurship and your new business. Let's talk about that. Midland, Fort Worth, it's an easy 4-hour drive. We're there, seems like for golf almost every other week. But let's talk about how you built this business and how it's going and all of the challenges, because we can all learn from each other. We were talking about it off camera a minute ago, big challenge today. They happen daily, right, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you almost, like we said earlier, before we started, if something's not going wrong, something seems wrong, right? So, but, to give you a backstory on Westaplex Garage, we had a podcast as well. A couple of years ago, we hung it up, but between the time we hung it up and the time Westaplex started, my garage door spring in my house broke and I knew nothing about it. I was like, I wasn't even home. I told Amanda, my wife, to just call the company that had their sticker by the clicker. Right. And she did. They came out and they quoted $2,200 to fix a spring. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I was in Weatherford, not in Fort Worth. And I was just thinking that sounded way too high. So I told her to call someone else. She did. $1,900. That still seems high. I know these little steel springs can't be more than 40 or $50.
Right.
So she called a third company, and third company came out and they did it for $900, which seemed fair to me, fair to him. But at this point I had gotten home. And I sat there and I talked to that 1099 technician for this company for about an hour and a half, just wondering about P&L, what the business model looked like, how long they've been in business, all this stuff. And he gave me some valuable information. He probably shouldn't have shared with me as much as he did, but I took his phone number down, and it really, like, that night I laying there in bed. I'm like, this model seems wrong. Like, why do I get a quote that's $1,300 different than the cheapest one? I'm like, something seems out of whack here. Like, someone's not telling the truth. It's not an honest industry. So the next day I called that technician back while he was working, and I said, man, I know you don't know me from Adam, but what do you think about doing this with me and just charging people honest prices? And he was in.
That's awesome.
So I formed the company about a week later, and then in the next 2 months, I rode around with him in his truck while I was learning the industry, learning what he did, learning how his day was. And then I guess that would have been October. It was Halloween. I'm looking at our first check. I got this big, huge banner of our first check in our office here. It was Halloween of 2023. We kicked it off, and our first check was $189.44. So
Wow.
we've been off to the races since, and it's just basically just giving people honest prices. That's literally our entire model. So
I love that.
good.
Congratulations, because I know how hard it is in that first year. What was the biggest challenge that you came across?
Personnel is the hardest thing, right? I mean, it just really is. In our industry, there are no certifications, there are no tests, there are no licenses that you need to do garage work. And in my opinion, there should be. It's not like HVAC, plumbing, electrical, any of that, where you need some sort of certification. There's none in ours. So if you're trying to take on a new guy, and we've got 5 guys now, but to find those other 4, it has been a real pain. It is tough to find good guys that do good work, that aren't going to show up hungover, or not going to, be tired or make some excuse every morning why they're not there. Because 2 of these guys are 1099 guys. I can't force them to be here.
Right.
But, good people are hard to find in our industry. I think we've got a good team now. It's taken a year and a half, but we've basically had to poach them from other companies. We overpay them. Well, I say we overpay them. We pay them more than they were earning at their last employer to get them to come over to us. And we already charge less, so we make less, but the guys are happier. They're making more. And we have a nice, small, very family-oriented team here. But the personnel is the hardest part. It really is.
Yeah. And your wife and kids are just beautiful, by the way. I mean, like, they are, when you buy a picture frame and you think of like the family that is in that picture frame, I could see your family there. They're just beautiful. And your wife's an entrepreneur as well.
She is. Yeah, she is. Yeah. We actually started both of our companies within a couple weeks of each other. And I kind of feel bad about her whole deal, because like one day I came home from here, and we were very early. I mean, this was like our first or second week, and I'm like, I told her she needed a hobby. And that's not the right thing to say to your wife. It's just not.
No, John. No, it's not. Nope.
Especially if she's got 4 kids she's taking care of. And at the time, our youngest was like 6 months, and I told her she needed a hobby, and like that could have gone a horrible direction, but she took it well. And she went and started Roro Designs with her college best friend, and they're moving into a new building April 1st. So they're doing really well, but I don't take credit for that at all, because that should have not have been said. It should have been worded differently. But yeah,
you're lucky. You're lucky she took it that way. You're lucky.
Don't ever tell your wife she needs to start a hobby, because it might turn into a full-time job. And both of you have 4 kids and you both own a business. So anyway, fast forward 2 years, we're happy it's happened, and she's doing great. Yeah, she's got a very entrepreneurial mindset as well.
Well, congratulations to you both. My husband and I are both business owners as well, and we understand the grind it takes to get to where you're at. And year 1 and 2 they're 2 of the toughest, really. We're now 10 years with one of our businesses, and I still feel like we're in the infant stage. I still feel like we're still have long ways to go, right?
Right.
But it's a beautiful thing too. Also, I mean, it really is to be living, working for yourself and living your own dream. With that said, we do something usually called quote of the day. I'm a big quote girl, John. If you were here, I would have you reach in, you would pick one out, but you're not. So I'm going to pick one out for you. Okay.
All right.
All right, here we go. So you got trying to mix them up here so we don't do. You got the polite card. Okay, so the polite card, your question is, don't let someone else's opinion of you become reality, from Les Brown. What does that mean to you?
Oh man, I've developed really thick skin over the years. I guess with professional golf, you just have to have that.
Yeah.
You've seen it with Max Homa recently. He's gotten off social media and he's starting to play really bad. And he was probably one of the best people on Twitter for a long time as far as professional golfers go. And he deleted the whole thing completely because of what he was getting. And people were, DMing him and messaging him and writing about him online. And it's got under his skin. It's got to him. It's affecting his play.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that happened to me too. Like that happens to all professional golfers. You've got DraftKings, you got people betting on you. You've got guys that are putting you in their lineup and it's costing them $2. And all of a sudden you miss the cut and you blew their lineup up and they can't buy their can of dip for the day. And they send you a DM on Twitter saying, terrible things, and you let it get to you. So that happened to me 10 years ago, in the height of my playing time. And there's only so much of those that you take and then you start laughing about them. Right. But
Right.
originally, yeah, they do affect you. And, your card says, don't let other people's opinion affect you. Certainly does in the interim, in the beginning. Right. And then
Right.
you do develop thicker skin as you progress as a professional athlete, as you progress as an adult, a husband, a wife, whatever it is. The things that used to bother you really don't anymore.
Right.
And whether it be making a double bogey or missing the cut, those hurt early, but as you grow and develop, you use them as learning milestones, and you're able to be better in the long run. So, yeah, I did let people's opinions affect me when I was early and young in my career. And then, you just get so many DMs that tell you to jump off a bridge that you just kind of you laugh about them and you move to the next one. So at this point, at 36 years old with 4 kids, and I feel like I've had about 18 careers at this point, nothing really phases me anymore.
Yeah.
I've failed so many times that, I'm not scared to fail. I'm not scared to lose a bid. I'm not scared to get a no. And I think all that comes with a lot of it. The thick skin came from golf early,
Yeah.
and it's translated to business. So
Absolutely. I think golf does. It really does toughen you up. And so I think you are prepared for business, because business, you have to have thick skin too. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we've been told no, but you just get back out there, and because for every no, there's someone else is going to say yes. So
that's right. Yeah.
Well, do you have a favorite quote you live by?
I've already told it to you. Well, I haven't told it to you. We spoke about the 5.
I was like, wait, which one?
The 5 people close. You are a combination of the 5 people close to you. I love that. I try to live by it. But I plant a lot of trees, and I've planted trees for each one of my kids at the farm. And
Aw.
it's funny that I planted pine trees for my oldest son. I planted peach trees for my daughter, who was next. I planted a persimmon tree for my next son, which is totally relevant to him. And then I planted loblolly pines for my youngest daughter. But
Wait, is your youngest son the one that put the truck down the toilet?
Oh, he's ruined 2 toilets, 3 TVs in the last just in the last year. Yeah. Yeah.
Those younger ones, they
That's
keep
why
you
having a
young, don't
persimmon
they?
tree is very appropriate for him. Persimmon trees are about the hardest trees you can get. And he's so hard-headed that it's super appropriate to him. But anyway, what I was getting at is you know, I can't remember the exact quote word for word, but uh, basically the whole meaning of planting a tree and the tree's 3 feet tall, the man's going to die before he sits under the shade of that tree. So
Mm,
the whole idea behind it is you plant a tree and you're doing good, but you don't realize the good till after you're gone, and
yeah,
your family realizes it. And I can't remember the exact verbiage of how it goes, but I love planting trees. I know that's like not everybody's cup of tea, but I've planted a lot of trees, and I think when you leave farmland and you leave land that you may own, even your house, you leave the land better than you found it. Um, that's kind of something I try to live by as well.
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. You mentioned earlier Max Homa and Twitter, and like these were things you didn't have to deal with, right? A whole lot. I mean, social media was fairly new in 2012. I mean, I think that's when I got my Facebook page. I think it was
Yeah.
2012. Never did MySpace or any of that. I mean, so it was a new era. What do you think about the way that entertainment, Instagram, TikTok is playing a role in sports today compared to like when you were in it?
I think there's good and there's bad. Um, Clearly, it can be used for good, but a lot of it's bad too. When I was growing up, it was 100 degrees outside in July, and I didn't have anything to distract me from hitting balls or trying
Yeah.
to improve. And now you go to a driving range where there's young kids around, and they'll hit 2 or 3 balls, 10 balls, they'll film one, and then they'll sit on their phone for 15 minutes and sit on the ground. And I'm not saying that's wrong. It's just the way of the world these days. But we just had so far less distractions back then that we were really able to have tunnel vision on what we wanted to accomplish that day. And a lot of it's for good. So that's the bad. The good is, right, you also have the ability to download the TrackMan app or the Foresight app on your phone, bring your TrackMan out and learn a shot. You can learn a shot that used to take me 10 years ago 5 days and thousands of golf balls to hit, and you can learn it in 10 minutes because the spin rate, the launch angle, every condition that's possible because the TrackMan's telling you. So
Yeah.
that's the good part about it, right? But yeah, social media has a lot of good. It's done a lot of good for the game of golf. I think golf is a lot more popular now because of it, and it's seeming fun to different demographics of people at the same time. You're seeing a lot more minority play now than you ever did when I was growing up. Golf wasn't cool. Tiger made golf cool. Well, Tiger's minority, so all of a sudden, you're seeing the kids that I'm a little old, right? Tiger and I were more, Tiger's 11 years older than me. So, but when Tiger was making his run in 2008, 2009, 2010, I was already in college at that point, right? But those kids that were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that were minorities watching a black dude just dominate everybody. Now you're seeing those kids at 20, 22, 23, 24. They're playing golf. They're putting on Instagram.
Right.
And you're seeing a lot more minorities play golf, which is awesome because I grew up playing public golf courses and it was around a lot of public golf growing up, and we didn't necessarily see minorities out there. It was really uh, just white guys for the most part. And I think social media has really helped boom minority golf a lot, which is cool. The First Tee does a lot of that too, with young kids, especially here in Fort Worth. They got a great program, and
Yeah.
it's mostly minorities, which is fantastic. And I think social media has helped that a lot.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think First Tee, I'm glad you mentioned it. Great program. I mean, fantastic. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to meet Judy Rankin. She's out of West Texas here. Huge supporter of junior golf. And really, she was one of the ones really, she really helped get First Tee here in Midland because we didn't have one until what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, maybe 5.
5 years ago. We just got our first tee program. I know Fort Worth has a great one. Dallas has an amazing one as well. And so it is such a great program that I wish every community could really take advantage of, because I feel like every kid should play golf. I mean, it's the best sport. It's the lifelong sport you can play. You really learn who you are and who others are, and how, and life. To me, it's the closest thing to life, right? Is learning in golf and being out there. You mentioned technology. I was thinking about it, just through our kids, watching them through the years. Our oldest is 25, or about to be 25. Youngest is 16, and all four of them played golf in college, and except for the last one, he's 16, high school. And
Wow.
and he the differences I've seen through technology is, I love it because they're out on the golf course for 4 hours without their phones, right? But through COVID, they went to a scoreboard online, because before COVID, you had to wait to get in, right, to see what everybody else played your shot that day. You weren't following the app as you play. How do you feel about that? Because to me, I have mixed feelings about it, and I'm not a competitive golfer, so I really can't tell you if that's a good or bad thing. But it's one thing I've noticed: the difference between my 25-year-old and the 16-year-old is they have a scoreboard with them the entire time in a junior golf tournament, because they have to put their scores in the app. What do you feel about that?
Well, that is news to me. I did not know that you had to keep score on your phone in high school golf now.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I didn't know they did that in college. They probably do it in college now too. But
Yeah, they
no,
do.
I'm
They
old
do.
school with the paper stuff.
Yeah.
I like the paper scorecards. That's what you're going to do when you're a
Yep.
pro. It doesn't matter. We could be in 2100. You're 2100, right? And they're not. The PGA Tour is so antiquated and all of their stuff. They're still going to make you do a paper scorecard. And even if you play mini tour events, I highly doubt that guys are sitting there on their phone, trying to win a golf tournament, figuring out what everybody made on their phone.
Right.
I don't like it. I'll be honest. I
Yeah,
don't like
it's
that.
weird, right?
I don't like that. I'm a paper guy. I like seeing the scoreboard. There's something about not knowing where you finished until all the scores come in.
Right.
Right. That's like
Right.
the anticipation of knowing where you stand when everybody's done. Like that little 30-minute, 45-minute window of, God, did I win? Did I get second? Like, where am I? That's cool. But like right when you finish, if you log into your phone, you're like, oh, I lost. You just leave.
Right.
That's no fun. Like
I'm with
I
you.
like the old school stuff.
Yeah, even if you do come in with a 64 and then you find out your buddy, that you've been playing with your whole life anyway, he came in with a 63, but you guys find out at that moment when you see it on the scoreboard, right? That's in the clubhouse. I'm with you. I miss those days. I really do. I miss that for the kids. But yeah, so that's an interesting thing. Anyway, let's talk Masters, because it is Masters week, and when this airs anyway, when this will be Masters week. Who do you have? What are your picks? But before we get to that, you went there. You played it. I mean, the closest I'm getting to the Masters is wearing this green jacket today.
Yeah, it's a special week. Obviously, the way I got in was that fourth place finish in the U.S. Open, and I had at the time in 2013, I was still on the Web.com tour. So back then it was Web.com. Now it's Korn Ferry.
Right.
But in 2013, I opened my season, instead of opening it in Hawaii on the PGA Tour, like everybody else that was going to play in the Masters. I'm in Panama and Colombia and Chile playing the Korn Ferry Tour. So to this day, I still think I hold the record as the only Korn Ferry Tour player to play the Masters. Like, that's the tour I was on when I played the Masters, because I finished right in that weird spot in the U.S. Open where I made enough money to be a Korn Ferry Tour member, but not enough money to earn PGA Tour status. So now, 8 months later, I'm starting in Panama and Chile and Colombia down here, playing different courses, different guys. And then I go from the Midland tournament, which they used to have out there.
We watch it every year. Yeah.
Was the same week as the Masters that year. So I had to withdraw from the Midland tournament to play the Masters. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Oh, darn.
But,
Midland, wait, and I love Midland Country Club, but Midland Country Club or Augusta?
Yeah. So I withdrew from the Midland tournament, unfortunately, to go play Augusta, and we get to Augusta National, and when you qualify for the Masters, they send you right when you qualify. They send you a card. It's like a little credit card. It has a magnetic strip on the back with your name on it, and it says 2013 Masters. I still have it. And every time you go, because you can play unlimited practice rounds once you qualify. Okay.
Okay.
So every time you go, you swipe everything that you bought, everything that you ate on property on that card. And they don't send you a bill until after the tournament's over. So I went like, yeah, I've probably set the record for practice rounds because you never know if you're going to go back. I mean, I probably played 8 or 9 rounds before the tournament even got underway, before the week of the tournament. I went a lot. I mean, we flew over there in my buddy's little weed whacker plane from Baton Rouge a couple times. And I remember one time, like it took like 4 hours to go from Augusta, Georgia to Baton Rouge because we had like an 80-mile-an-hour headwind, and we could have driven there almost as fast. But I got to tournament week. My parents came. My grandfather, he would have been 85 at the time, didn't move very well, and his dream was always to go to the Masters. He came, and we all stayed in the house together. So the only house that I was able to rent that wasn't taken, that was right next to the golf course, was Patrick Reed's parents' house. So
Okay.
little weird staying in Patrick Reed's bedroom.
Yeah, a little weird.
Because Patrick Reed hadn't qualified for the Masters yet. So they moved out for the week and we moved in. And I'm staying in like Patrick Reed's bedroom looking at all these junior golf trophies and college awards and all this stuff. And just a little weird. But
That is weird.
my whole family was there. My trainer was there. So he worked me out in the morning before my rounds. We'd go over there. And I had the first tee time on Thursday, very first one out of the gate. So
Wow.
as you know, every year they have honorary starters, right?
Yeah.
So back then, Arnold Palmer was still alive, and Jack was Jack, and Gary Player was Gary Player. They did it for, who knows, 20 years, them three. So I'm on the range. It's still dark outside. I think my tee time was like 7 a.m. or something. It's 40 degrees cold, and I'm warming up, getting ready to go. And, I look over my shoulder and Jack Nicklaus is right behind me. And then here comes Arnold Palmer with just his driver, just hitting drivers. And Gary Player's 2 down from him, and I'm in the middle of them. And that was a pretty surreal moment for me at that point. Like I hadn't really felt like I was at the Masters until that happened.
I bet. Yeah.
So I finished my warm up. I walked to the tee, and there's a putting green, right behind the first tee there. And there are 10,000 people around, right? They got the big boom camera that comes over everybody, and they're filming Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, and Gary Player, and they put their names right there, and I stopped, obviously, I stopped putting, and I walked to the very front because I was next to play, and I watched them hit their 3 tee shots. And then they took Arnold Palmer's name out, Gary Player's name out, and Jack Nicklaus's name out, and mine went in. I was like, here we go. Here we go. So
wow.
That first tee ball, I've never been as nervous in my life as that I was on that tee box. I don't remember it that well, setting up to it and then hitting the shot. I just remember it being 40 degrees. That bunker on the right's like 310 to carry, and I flew it right into the lip of it at 40 degrees, which I've never flown a ball 308 yards in my life. That was
just a little adrenaline going, right?
That was the only time I'll ever do that. So that was pretty awesome. Anyway, I make the cut and have kind of a dream week for me. I don't remember where I finished. It wasn't very good. I played bad on Sunday, but
hey, you made the cut. You made the cut.
I did. I made the cut. Played
awesome.
bad on Sunday, but it was awesome. So the credit card, right? The credit card they send you. So basically, whatever amount you make for the week, they take your expenses out of your check, which sucked for me because I was super excited to get a pretty big check, and I ended up having $4 or $5 grand taken out because of all the stuff I'd bought over the prior 6 months. But
Oh
anyway,
my goodness.
all that considered, it was an incredible week. But yeah, I mean, we can talk about favorites and who we like this week, or this week, I guess,
Yeah.
tournament.
Well, it sounds like you had too many pimento cheeses when you were there for all your practice rounds.
Yeah. Well,
$5,000.
the crazy thing is though, like when you're there and you're on property, there's no one else there. You know, I was there
Really?
in February and January, maybe two other groups. But they have no menus. They don't have prices on anything. You just
Yeah.
they have no menu. They don't bring you a menu. They tell them what you want and they'll make it, you know, like,
Oh, wow.
so I was like, I need a lobster roll. And they're like, okay. Like, and they
Okay.
brought me a lobster roll. It's like,
$100 lobster roll.
I was trying to see if I could order something that they couldn't bring, and that's never successful. So,
Oh my gosh.
like, I
How
need
fun is
seafood
that?
gumbo. They brought me seafood gumbo. So,
Well,
but anyway, yeah,
congratulations. I mean, you have lived the dream that most of us that will never ever get there have lived, and that's pretty awesome. So congratulations, and what fun memories. That is so cool. So going into Masters Week, who you got?
I think I'd be stupid to not say Rory McIlroy. You know, I think his time is finally here to win that thing.
Yeah.
Seems like a good headspace right now for him. He hadn't really had the massive disappointments this year that he's had in prior years leading up to the tournament. I think he's just super confident. I think he's ready to win it. Dark horse though, honestly, like I would not be shocked if Joaquin Neiman came in there and was threatening on Sunday. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
He's the most not talked about player right now because he's playing on live, and nobody's really giving the live guys any credit. But that dude's won 4 live events in 18 months. And those fields, as you know, they're stronger than the Houston Open this week. I mean, he's beaten John Rahm, Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau. Like he's beating world-class players every week. So don't be shocked if Joaquin Neiman comes in there and surprises some people.
That's a good one. I may have to, I don't know, make a call to Vegas or something.
Our Vegas pick.
Our Vegas pick, Oberg.
Of course he is.
I mean,
yeah.
Of course. I mean, like we've got the West Texas connection. We're gonna go Oberg. Of course, I also love Scotty. I mean, you can never count Scotty out. I'm gonna put Jordan in there, and I love Tony Finau. I think as a family person, I love his family. Like I follow them on Instagram, so I'm always rooting for him. I'm always rooting for the family guys. But I'm also with you. I think Rory's gonna. I mean, he's gonna be up there. We know it. But what are your thoughts on Oberg?
Oberg, I love Oberg. I mean that swing is, you cannot screw it up. And he's like 6'3", you know, and he swings it. He looks like he's swinging 75% all the time, and he's flying at 320. That right on a string every time. And with his dominating college career and then making the Ryder Cup and winning, and that dude's going to win so many golf tournaments. He's going to get sick of winning. But I
Can that happen? Can that really happen?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never experienced it, so
I don't either.
Don't ask me. But I think Ludwig is going to win a lot of golf tournaments. He's definitely going to be a major champion. I like his chances. I think that's a good pick, especially if the weather gets bad. If the weather gets bad, then I like grinders like Ludwig. Rory does not do well in bad weather. He's a little bit soft with bad weather, which is kind of ironic because he's from Northern Ireland, and you would think, you know, bad weather would play into him a little bit more. But historically, if you look at Rory's finishes in bad weather, they're not good. You know, he's really good on soft, long, calm conditions, like 2011 U.S. Open at Congressional. I mean, it was soft, long, wide open, and calm, and he just killed everyone, you know, and that's kind of what he thrives on, conditions like that. But Ludwig, you know, West Texas boy, 40-mile-an-hour winds aren't going to phase him. You know, that's just another Friday out there.
That's right. That's normal. We're used to it out here. Exactly.
If it's cold, if the weather gets bad, it's cold and windy. Yeah, I love Ludwig out there.
Yeah, I hope he does well. And you mentioned Rory, and I was thinking, you know, Rory's knockdown shot on 17 recently. That was pretty impressive. I thought he's been practicing in the wind a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a great shot. So, I mean, I don't know what the weather looks like for the Masters yet, but I mean, if there is some wind, yeah, I think Ludwig's going to do great. Rory, do you have any long shots, sweetie?
My long shots were always Chad from Andrews.
Oh, Chad Campbell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's no longer around.
He's no longer, yeah. But yeah. But how about for this week?
I would say. Let me think.
Al's
I'll come
thinking,
back
right?
to you.
Al's coming back to us on his long shot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, we do in our family group text, and I put a little Venmo money on it. We do our 5 favorite picks, and then give me your one long shot. You know, who do you just like? Nobody's got him up there, and you know, and not that he's a long shot, but Colin Morikawa, I think, is going to do great too. I mean, you just can't rule him out ever, too. So.
Yeah, I think the Bay Hill disappointment will probably serve him well at Augusta. You know, you can respond from disappointment one of two ways, right? You either come back way better or way worse.
Yeah,
And most people get worse, but you know, the best don't. And Colin is certainly one of the best. Don't sleep on Xander either. I mean, I know he's been hurt, but he won 2 majors last year. That dude always shows up in the big tournaments. And he hits it forever for a tiny little guy. And he's tough. You know, I like Xander because his mindset, and he's tough. So I think he's got a chance. So basically Rory, Xander, and then dark horse Joaquin for me.
Okay. I like it.
Picks. Yeah.
All right. I can't wait to see how it all plays out. It's going to be fun. Have you seen the menu yet?
Yeah, I did. He changed like one thing from his prior win, which is kind of amazing.
He's such a Texas boy. I mean, he's such a Texas boy. Yeah.
Everything on his menu you can get at Lone Star Steakhouse or like Texas Roadhouse. You know,
That's
everything
right.
on his menu is a staple at Texas Roadhouse. Like that's the most Texas menu I've ever seen. It's great.
That's right. I love it. Speaking of Texas, I'm sure you get this question all the time now because you're in Fort Worth. We're in Midland. Landman, are you watching?
So my wife, Amanda, was in episode 2.
You're kidding.
Season 1. Yep.
Really? Tell me where was she at? Tell me so I can go back and watch.
So we both did it. Okay. We got this random email from one of her friends, and she happened to be recruiting all the extras. So she says, "You want to do it?" I said, "Sure. Yeah, let's go do it. You know, why not?" You know, it was like a Tuesday or something. So we met at Hotel Drover here in Fort Worth, and we went through. I think it was like an 8 a.m. deal. Anyway, there was 150 extras. Okay, they were doing that banquet scene. You may or not remember it. It was episode 2. John Hamm sitting next to Demi Moore. He gets a phone call in episode 2 from Billy Bob Thornton, and he walks out of the room. Okay,
I remember. Yeah,
that's the scene that we were filming. So it was filmed at Drover. We show up, and you know, we're not expecting anything. We're just expecting to be like at some random table, you know, way in the back, whatever. And they pulled Amanda out, and they said, "Hey, would you mind being at John Hamm's table with him and Demi Moore?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure, but what about John?"
Can I bring my husband?
And they didn't pull me out, so obviously, like, she's beautiful. So they were like, "Yeah, sure, he can come," because they knew they were going to cut me out anyway. But so anyway, they dress us up in tuxedos and make us, you know, they put all these fancy clothes on us and all these fancy watches and stuff, and we were supposed to be a billionaire friend of theirs. Nice. So we sat. If you go back and watch it. John Hamm is sitting next to Demi Moore. And then on the left side of John Hamm is Amanda, my wife. And then next to Amanda is me. But Amanda gets about, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds of screen time, like pretty big right there next to John Hamm. And we spent 8 hours filming that scene. And it was a total of like 35 seconds. And we'll probably not do it again. We'll probably a one and done scenario on that. But it was certainly fun. It was certainly fun, and it's really cool that, you know, most of it was filmed here in Fort Worth, and I'm a big fan of that show. I love the show. They're filming season 2 now, and I'm sure we'll start seeing, all the camera crews and stuff pop up all over the place.
I know. I'm so excited. I love it. I think it's a good thing. I mean, it really highlights our communities, and there's a lot of truth to it. There's some Hollywood in it, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, chances are, if you come to Midland, you know someone that's like Billy Bob's character. I mean, I can name about a handful right here.
Right.
But that's not your only connection to West Texas. You happen to love Midland Meat Company, which is our good friend John Scarver. How did that connection happen? How did you find out about it?
I love Midland Meat Company. If we could do an entire podcast on me talking about Midland Meat Company steak.
John would love that. He would love that.
Oh my God, it's just the best. Like it's you can't really find anything comparable here in Fort Worth. I've had Midland Meat Company dry ice to me, a handful of times, and I'll do is I'll get their ribeye, and I'll get, a store-bought ribeye from here at HEB or something. I'll cook them side by side, and then I'll, present them to my family or something. And the store-bought ribeye just sits there. Like, it's not even close. It doesn't matter. Same seasoning, same cooking, everything's the same.
Yeah.
But that Midland Meat Company it's a joke, really. It's the best. And my kids call it candy steak. They have a name for it. Like, can we get candy steak? And that's Midland Meat Company. But John's become a friend of mine. Yeah. And I met him through James Grip, who's out there in Midland too. So Grip's a buddy of mine. And so Grip introduced me and John, and we played some golf. We've grilled steaks at Grip's house here in Fort Worth, and had a couple big days together. But yeah, Midland Meat Company, my favorite thing that they have is their jerky.
My husband loves he loves their beef jerky.
Other than the ribeyes, if I can't get the ribeyes, the hot dogs and the jerky. The hot dogs are insane. Like they're so good. I don't know what they do to them. I don't know if they're shooting cocaine in them or something, but they're so good. My kids love them. I love them. I mean, I'll eat 2 or 3 hot dogs when I get them. But yeah, I could go on and on about Midland Meat Company.
I can tell you like that almost as much as you love golf. I can tell you're picking it up. You like the candy steak.
At this point in my life, if I had to pick between golf and Midland Meat Company, I would certainly pick Midland Meat Company.
That's awesome. And right there, that should be the next commercial for Midland Meat Company.
There you go. Yeah.
I love it.
Edit that out.
All right. So we've talked steak, we've talked Landman. Oh, let's give a golf tip, because every golfer wants to get better, right? I mean, every golfer wants to get better. If you had to give one tip, what would it be? The one thing we could all do tomorrow that makes our golf game better.
I mean, it's just going to be the most boring response ever. And you've heard it a million times, but the reason you've heard it a million times is because it's true. It's like cliches, right? I mean, you've got to get up and down more. The average golfer, the 10 handicap, 12 handicap, 8 handicap, that doesn't hit more than 50% of their greens in regulation is not going to get up and down enough, right? They don't chip it close enough. So like chipping and putting is everything in our game. It is. And it's boring to practice. It is. But if you can try to make it fun, there were drills that I did when I was playing that made it a little more fun, made it a little more competitive. Like I couldn't leave until I made 100 3-footers in a row. Yeah. I couldn't leave until I hit 20 chips inside a 3-foot circle from 10, 15, 20 yards. And then if you don't get it, you have to start over. So you really are engaged in what you're doing. If you make your practice intentional, and you practice the things you're supposed to do intentionally, then you will improve just by doing that. Like you don't even realize that you're improving, but you're so locked in on the process that your results go better. And a lot of these kids these days, they get so locked into results. Why are my results bad? Well, it's because you're focusing on results and not the process. The results come if the process is good. They always will. But like even me, when I was playing professionally, I didn't play professionally. I didn't like professional golf, for one. I didn't like it. There was no team aspect to it. Felt alone a lot, very lonely on the road. I played to make money. That's why I played. I paid to pay the bills, support my family, all this. You get the best golfers in the world. They don't play for that. They don't play to make money. They don't see their paycheck and like, great, now I can go buy a new TV, right? they play because they love the process. They're ingrained in getting better, and that's all they're worried about. That's why guys like Rory and Phil and Justin Thomas and, Jordan Spieth and these guys are making 10, $15 million a year. They don't care if they make 10 or $15 million a year. That's just a
Right.
product of the process. So if you can get your kids or, young athletes, doesn't matter the sport, locked in on the process and loving the process of getting better, then the results always follow. But if you sit there and you're like, oh, I finished 20th last week, or I didn't bench press enough this week, and you'll get down because the results will never impress you if you're not loving the process.
You said it all right there. That's awesome. Short game, short game, short game, and love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's important in anything. I don't care what sport it is. I don't care what business it is. You've got to love what you're doing, because then the money will come, and if you focus on the process, right?
Yeah, make practice competitive, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to improve at golf, you got to make the boring times where you're by yourself competitive with yourself. You've got to challenge yourself to do something you haven't done every time you practice. And because if you don't, you're just exercising. That's all you're doing.
That's true. All right. What's a fun fact about you that we would not know by reading your bio or your Wikipedia page?
That's a good one. I'm a pilot. I don't know if that's everywhere, but I do fly a little airplane. I fly my family around. We go to Baton Rouge. In that, I've taken it to Lubbock. I've taken it. I don't think I've landed at Midland yet, but we take it all over the place. It's nothing special. People say, "Oh, you have prep." No, this is a lawnmower with wings, and it is not special. It basically costs as much as my truck. So, but I do fly that thing around. I love to fly. Flying is a challenge, just like golf is. You can never be perfect at it. I love that about it. But I think that's fairly rare. So that's pretty different from most people, I guess. What else? I don't really, I think I'm fairly interesting, but I may not be that interesting. So if I think of something, I'll let you know.
I think we've learned a lot about you today. You're very interesting.
Oh,
Al's got a question.
does he ever see himself coaching college golf?
Oh, good question. Do you ever see yourself coaching college golf or golf in general?
I tried to get the LSU men's job last year. And I also tried to get the TCU job last year. They were both without a coach. Montegill had been let go by TCU. He had been there like 40 years or something. They let him go. Didn't agree with that at all. I thought he was a great coach for what he was working with here in Fort Worth. But I tried to
He was a super nice guy too. I remember seeing him on the course a couple of times at some tournaments. Super nice.
Fantastic human being. But I tried to get his job. So yes, I mean, the answer is yes, I would coach college golf. I think developing young men in the ages of 18 to 22 is when they're outside of their home is the most important time of their lives.
Yes.
As far as setting themselves up for success later in life. And I think I have a lot to offer there. I mean, I've been where they want to be. I've played the PGA Tour. I've played majors. I've contended in majors, and I tried to pitch that to both schools. They didn't care. So I got down to the final three with TCU and with LSU. They ended up going different directions. So we went full steam ahead with Garage Doors, and that's kind of how that went down.
Well, you never know where life's going to take you, right? And I always believe everything happens for a reason. You would be a great coach, though. I can tell that with your heart, you would pour into those, young men. And there's other avenues to do it, right? There's other ways to pour into them. But that is awesome. But quick question: what is one life hack that makes your life easier that you use? Could be daily. Chat GPT, baby. I'm with you.
Not close. Not close. There's not a second. There's no second to that one. That is the best invention of the last 20 years. Like I don't know if I've responded to an email, wrote up an employment contract. Like everything I do is on Chat GPT. I'm the guy that types an email with two fingers, right? I just could not type. I hate typing. Not good at it. Would much rather answer an email on my phone. And if I'm on my desktop, like Chat GPT, boom, writes it's perfect. Like I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But that's the number one life hack for me.
I love it. I love it. I agree. It is amazing. We actually want to learn more about it. We're like,
I need to chat GPT how to start a Zoom.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
We'll do that after this Zoom. Yeah. We had some
Yeah.
technical difficulties today, which right now I'm not even sure if my jacket is green or white or whatever it looks like. So I apologize if you're watching on YouTube and not listening on Apple or Spotify. But anyway, let's talk favorite things because as I mentioned, Fort Worth, we love Fort Worth. It's an easy 4-hour drive for us Midlanders, and it's someplace we always love to go. I always ask our guests their favorite places to eat in West Texas. So give us your favorite place to eat in Fort Worth. We already know favorite in Midland is Midland Meat Company.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd rather eat a steak off of the highway that Midland Meat Company had than pretty much any steakhouse here in Fort Worth. My favorite place to eat here in town is Bonnell's. I don't know if y'all been to Bonnell's.
No, where's it at?
It's right off of 183 and Bryan Irvin down there in Southwest Fort Worth.
Okay.
But John Bonnell owns it. He's had, I don't know, it's probably 25, 30 years old. Anyway, they've got wild game in there. They've got an appetizer you've probably had it because y'all are West Texas folks, but basically cuts a cactus, right? And scrapes all the needles off everything, grills it, and then seasons it. That appetizer's a joke. They have elk tacos that are crazy good. Steak's not quite as good as Midland Meat Company, but they got elk. They've got elk steaks. They've got venison stuff. They've got obviously a bison and beef. It's just a very good representation of Fort Worth, Texas cuisine. So whenever someone comes in from out of town that maybe hadn't tried Fort Worth stuff, or they need a good welcome to Fort Worth meal, I take them to Bonnell's. It's great.
Awesome. All right, favorite coffee shop?
I don't go to coffee shops. I don't like. I'm that's my like. I don't do it. It's because I just don't like them. I don't like coffee shops. I don't like Starbucks. I don't like. They just opened one around the corner over here about a month ago. It's called La La Land. It's in Yellow, and I had never heard of it. But the line for this thing, the first week it was open, was 150 yards long on foot.
Oh my goodness.
On foot. It was like a 4-hour line, and there was nothing but like TCU kids in the line. So that just it turns me off big time. I do not like coffee shops. I can't even pick one. I mean, I drink coffee at home. Like I do not do coffee shops.
That's how my husband prefers that at home as well. He likes Folgers. He likes just basic. Give me a cup of coffee. I don't need a latte double half calf with almond milk and a half a shot of espresso. I mean, he's like,
I'll tell you what, I've tried to go to Starbucks in a pinch a few times, and they ask me what I want, and I just say I need a large coffee, right? And they've got all these crazy names for all their stuff, and you can't even just tell them a large. It'll look at you like you have 4 heads, and so like it ends up being a venti. Something.
Yeah.
That's
Americano.
it. Yeah, a venti Americano.
Oh, you want a venti Americano? Yeah, I just want a large coffee.
So I just said to hell with that, and I'd go down to the 7-Eleven and just fill up my own. It's not me.
You and Al have a lot in common there. He's the exact same way. Okay, favorite golf course. You could pick one golf course in the whole world. Which one is it?
It's the Honors Course in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And you probably never had that answer before.
I have not.
We played the national championship there my junior year of college. And it's basically a farm. Okay, so imagine driving down the road. Well, Midland's not a very good comparison because the trees aren't tall enough, but you're in Tennessee.
Pump jacks.
Yeah, you're in Tennessee and you've got 100-foot pine trees just lining the road. And then there's this 15-foot farm gate, like they got at Tractor Supply, that sits there. And there's no signage. You don't know what it is, but it's, a 50-mile-an-hour road. And if you don't know what's in there, you'll drive by it for 10 years and never know. So
really,
we're pulling the van and my coach stops, the gate's open, we drive in, and you go for about 500 yards. It's nothing but trees. You can't see anything. And then all of a sudden it opens up into this massive, beautiful, perfect golf mecca. It's a lot like Blue Jack National in Houston, but without the fancy gate and all that. but you drive in there and then it opens up into this perfect green, lush golf mecca. And there's little cabins there that you stay in. You play the golf course. There's not a divot. There's no ball marks. Like, it's perfect. And the golf course is extremely challenging. It's great for all levels. Like a 20 handicapper would have just as much fun as a scratch golfer. And in my opinion, that's the definition of a good course, right? Where everybody can play and have a good time. But that's certainly, and I haven't been back since. That's 2010, and it's been 15 years, and it's still my favorite course.
Is that where you won the national championship?
Is that where you won the national championship?
That is not. No, that was at.
Oh, I was thinking maybe that's why it was your favorite too.
No, that was at Carson Creek the next year in 2011.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. Okay. Favorite, let's see, favorite book and podcast, and then we're done with our favorite things.
So I'm reading a book right now that's called Quit Drinking Without Trying. And it's the easy way method. Like, I don't have a problem with alcohol. I mean, I certainly, if you listen to our podcast 3 years ago, you might have thought I did, but there is, I'm trying to drink less. I've noticed owning a business and having kids and all these priorities that, like, you just can't do it and be a good dad and be a good businessman. You just can't. Right. Yeah. And I've noticed with one or two just at dinner, like the next day I feel it. So I'm reading a book called Quit Drinking Without Willpower, and it's awesome. It basically retrains your mind to be thinking about alcohol as poison. And then for two, if you remove the people and the situation that you're in from whatever you're doing and you just have the alcohol left, is it as fun? And the answer is always no. It's not the alcohol that makes it fun. It's the people and the thing you're doing that makes it fun. Right. So retrains your brain to start thinking like that. And I'm not ever going to, like, completely quit, but I've cut it down probably 90% since reading this book. And it's really changed my life as far as professionally and being a dad and being a husband and all that. So that's my favorite book right now. That's
awesome. Thanks for sharing it. And then podcast.
Oh, well, I've got to start checking yours out. I have not yet. Honest. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
Will.
I'm just grateful that you are on today.
But I have a good buddy that he's here in Fort Worth. It's called The Fort with Chris Powers. And it's an entrepreneurial business-based podcast where he has business leaders from around the world on there that come to Fort Worth and, film with him. And I think he just passed 2 million downloads with it recently. So it's done really well. And he has really influential people. I was his third episode, like 7 years ago. So I remember where he came from, and looking at where his podcast is now, it's just been a really impressive show of growth.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check it out. I love that. I know you've had a lot of people in your life, a lot of mentors, lots of coaches, lots of, people that pour into you as we all do. Is there one in particular you want to thank and shout out today, and maybe share the piece of advice they gave you that changed your life?
Yeah, my high school coach I mentioned earlier was great, but I would not have ever made the PGA Tour, and I would never have had a career in golf if it wasn't for Chuck Winstead, my college coach at LSU. He recruited me before anyone else did, and then was able to give me a full scholarship to go to school. And I'm the oldest of 4 kids, so my parents had saved money for college for me, and not necessarily my siblings. So for me to be able to go to college for free freed up the money for them to go. And that wouldn't have been possible without Chuck taking a chance on me to go to LSU. Because, I was a good high school player. I had a few other offers from Tech and Texas and Oklahoma State, but they were not anywhere near full rides. Like, they were 50% or 25% of books, whatever. Right. But Chuck was able to make a full scholarship happen for me to go there. And then while I was there, he developed me as a young man. And, I screwed up all the time, as any college kid does. Right. And he was able to, I kind of refer to him as the bumpers on a bowling alley. Right. So I'm the ball rolling down towards the pin. And, instead of me going in the gutter, he would bounce me back in the lane, for 4 years. And,
Okay.
you know, I owe a lot to him. I wouldn't have made the PGA Tour. There's no doubt. And then I don't know if I'd be the man I am today without him. So yeah, Chuck Winstead takes the cake on most influential people other than my parents.
I love that. Is there anything that you remember him, like, was there a piece of advice he gave you that really just stands out, or that you think people need to hear?
I think so. I think the best leaders lead by example, and they lead by with their actions. And you know, yeah, you can tell somebody something until they're blue in the face, right? But until you show every day, like Chuck showed me love, and he showed me a father figure 7 hours from my house, right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
I think that was more important than anything he could have ever told me.
Mhm.
So yes, he did tell me all kinds of things for 4 years, right? He developed me as a man, but he showed me what he was talking about. More importantly, like I never saw him do anything that he wasn't telling me to do. Right? He led by example better than anyone I had seen, and it was the things that he did and not said that I remember.
Mhm.
There was one time I just blatantly didn't go to study hall, and I was a freshman. I just thought I could get away with not going, and he'd never find out, right? And it was like a geology class or something that I hated anyway, so I didn't go. Just didn't go to study hall. Very next morning, 5:45 in the morning, I get like two calls. Wakes me up. It's Chuck. He's like, "Meet me at Tiger Stadium. It's at 6 a.m." That's in 15 minutes. So I got my workout clothes on. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Got my workout clothes, ran to Tiger Stadium. He made me get a medicine ball, 15-pound medicine ball, over my head, run stadiums, and count every stair in Tiger Stadium until I was done. I threw up
That's,
everywhere. My legs hurt for like a week, but guess what? Made study hall every time.
yeah.
Like I didn't cross
Never
it again.
missed after that.
Like, and it was things like that resonate more with me. You know, corrective actions, and you know, showing me that he cared enough to be there at 5:45 to make
Nice.
sure I improved, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, he could have just let me go the next day and talked to me at practice and said, "Don't do that again," but that wouldn't have meant anything.
Right.
So it was him getting out of bed at 5:30 to meet me to make sure I got better. And I hated it at the time, but now at 36, you're like, well, that was probably the best thing for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. This has been such a fun conversation. Thank you so much, John, for visiting with us today, talking all things your business, your family, and I wish you all the success in the world. You already have had so many different amazing experiences in your life, and I can truly tell you, and I'm much younger than you, but the best is yet to come. You're doing great things, and what you're doing for your family is just amazing.
It's older.
I am much older. I am much. Did I say much? I am much, much older than you. Oh,
I
did I
was
say
trying to do
younger?
the math
Oh,
there. I was like, she has a 25-year-old, but she's younger than me. Like,
I'm much older. I am much, much older than
okay.
you. But I can tell you are just lovely, and your wife, and I wish you and your four beautiful children the very best. Is there anything in conclusion that we haven't talked about today that you want to get off your chest, you want to talk about? I mean, this is your open mic to share with our listeners.
Well, I mean, it's Masters week, right? Everybody's talking about the Masters, and it's the one week in golf where there are more vasectomies and people on the couch than any other week of the year. So, to all the dads out there watching the Masters that just had a vasectomy, God bless you. Good luck. Have a great week.
Is that a true stat?
Yeah, because they can stay home.
Because they can stay home and watch the match. That's great. I love that. Well, thank you so much. It has been fantastic. If people want to follow you and your business, and I want to shout out your wife's as well. It's Roro's Boutique, right? .com.
Roro Designs, yeah. Roro
Okay.
Designs.
Roro Designs. Where can they shout you out or follow your business?
Oh, we're all over social media. We got, you know, Westoplex Garage on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and online, internet, wherever you can find us. Westoplex Garage. We hadn't made it to Midland yet, but maybe we'll open a branch out there one day.
Hey, come on out here. Come visit us. We'll help you out.
Tell him to tell JJ.
And tell JJ we said hello. Yeah, your
You're
former
welcome.
podcast partner. Tell him we
We
said
will.
hello. Great guy. You
I'll
guys
see
are.
him next week. So
Yeah.
I'll tell him.
Oh, and also wishing all the people at your country club good luck, because didn't you just get amateur status not too long ago? So.
Yeah, July last year. I'm playing all club events this year for the first time ever, and I'm not that great anymore. I'm honest with you. Like I played a member 3 weeks ago, and I think we finished about 10th. So it's not looking good. I told you earlier that I had to work hard to maintain where I was, and when I'm not working hard, I'm just not very good. So
Well,
not
I'd
much
still be
golf going
scared.
on.
I'd be scared to be in your flight. I'm just saying. I mean, it's like riding a bike. You don't forget. And I see many club championships in your near future. So,
Well, thanks. We'll see.
well, thank you so much, John Peterson. It was a pleasure to share this time with you, and we appreciate your time and just the fun conversation, because we love all things golf, business, and family, and you're deep into all of that, and so we wish you much continued success in your future.
Yeah, you bet. Anytime you want me to come on, I'll be happy to.
You got it. And I can't wait to see how Joaquin does. That's going to be fun to watch. I got another person I'm rooting for now. So thank you for joining us. I want to thank all of our listeners before we close out. And of course, our sponsors. A huge thank you to our sponsors. Let's shout them out real quick. Rig ID, Midland Cap Company, also the Laughlin Hotel, Midland Omni Hotel, and Kevin Foreman of Foreman Financial. Support local wherever you're at. If you're in Fort Worth, support those local businesses we talked about today. I can't wait to try that new restaurant we learned about. And just support local. Remember, when you're supporting someone that you live next to and they're in your neighborhood, you're supporting their family. And that's what it's all about, is helping each other out in this world. Of course, my mottos: dream big, believe, and never give up. John Peterson, thanks again for joining us. Thank you for listening. Go Masters Week. Can't wait to see who wins. It's going to be fun. I know where we'll be the rest of this week. And we just appreciate you sharing this with someone you love so that we can all listen and learn and grow together. Thanks for joining us. You make it a great day.